Tired of pushy recruiters sending you LinkedIn requests for jobs you have no interest in? Tired of blasting out resumes into the dark? If so, you should check out Hired.com. Hired.com flips job searching on its head by having top employers like Facebook come to you after you fill out one simple application. You also get your own job coach to help you on your next job search. If you haven't checked it out, I highly recommend you at least fill out the application. Just go to Hired.com/simple programmer, and when you get hired with Hired, you'll get double the normal sign-on bonus for using that link.
Hey, what's up? John Sonmez here from simpleprogrammer.com. So I got an email about it matters what you call yourself, right? And referencing an article, basically asking the question of, does it matter what you call yourself? So I'm going to address in this video, as a software developer, as a person, does it actually matter what you call yourself or not? So again, I got this email and someone linked to an article that was on Telleric's site where they did a study, and the summary of it came down to this statement here, which says, it seems that the terminology used can directly impact your perceived value in the field and thus your salary. Why call yourself a web developer for a median income of $65,000 when you can be a software developer for $98,000? Words matter. So I definitely agree with this to some degree. I'm going to talk about that, but I also disagree in a small part, because I do believe that it's the job you're applying for, not necessarily the title, right? And I've done some videos on this. I think I did a blog post called "What Should Software Developers Call Themselves?" And this came from a little bit of a different angle of what you want to call yourself. When I was trying to figure out, I always have trouble trying to SEO, trying to figure out, what should I say? Should I say programmers? Should I say software developers? Should I say software engineers? Should I say developer? Developer is kind of generic, right? And so it's always difficult to try and figure out, even for these videos or for blog posts, what words to use that people are going to search for, that's going to reach more of my audience, who I'm trying to reach. So it's definitely a struggle, but I was coming at it mostly from that angle. But as an individual, as a person, as a software developer, as a programmer, software engineer, web developer, if you're trying to figure out what you should call yourself, I think it does matter. I think it matters what words that you use, and it can have an effect on your earning. Now, I would not say that just the difference between calling yourself a web developer and a software developer is going to be directly responsible for that big of a gap in earning, right? Because I think in a lot of cases, the person is not defining what they call themselves, right? It's the job that they have, right? And so I think there's some influence there. But I want to give you an example. I do think that this is valid and that does make sense. So I was looking into getting a new wardrobe and getting some help doing that, right? And updating kind of my style. Some of you are like, man, you've been wearing the same clothes for like 3 years. Yeah, I know. I'm fucking busy, all right? So anyway, I was looking into this, and when I look into the field, right, trying to find an expert here, I found 3 primary titles that people were giving themselves in this fashion industry, right? One of them was image consultant, and one of them was personal stylist, and then the third one was personal shopper, okay? And for the most part, they're doing the same thing. Now, you might make some arguments if you're in the industry and say, no, bullshit, John, they're totally different things. But for the most part, they're helping you buy clothes and picking out what looks good on you and giving you some style advice. That's for the most part what they're doing, right? But which one do you think can bill a higher hourly rate? So some of those image consultants, right, maybe $200-300 an hour, okay? On the low end, the personal shopper, right? That's kind of has that perception of, I'm just going to go and buy some clothes for you. $25 an hour, maybe $50 an hour at the high end there, but it makes a huge difference in the perception, even though they're pretty much doing a very similar thing. Now, we could see the exact same thing for software development field, right? For web development, right? A web developer versus a software developer versus software engineer. There's a lot we could talk about there. We'll sidestep the whole using the word engineer. It's kind of funny. I actually get pissed off about this. I'm trying to sidestep it, but when people get all upset upset when someone calls themselves a software engineer because you're not a real engineer. I actually don't think that software development is engineering, but I think people should have the right to call themselves whatever the fuck they want and leave them alone. Someone wants to call themselves a software engineer, fine. I don't care. Really, honestly, it's some bullshit when you try to tell people what they can and cannot call themselves. I mean, really, come on. Let's be real here. Again, like I said, and I'm coming from the perspective of that I don't really think it is engineering. It's a very different thing. Software development is more of a creative and problem solving. Like it's not like building a bridge. It's a very different thing. I think I've done a video on this. Software development is not engineering. If you're curious about my opinion on that, again, it doesn't really fucking matter. So it's just for fun debate type of thing. But what does matter definitely is the words that you use and how you call yourself. There was a really good book, actually. I think it's this book. If not, it's still a good book. It's called Things That Stick, I believe. Okay, I'll have to look this up, but I know that Things That Stick is a good book. And I believe in that book, the authors were talking about that they went to go and speak somewhere or something, and that they were given like a list of words that they could say and words that they couldn't say, the vocabulary of this organization. And they realized that those words, at first it seemed silly, okay, but then they realized that those words that they were using actually really shaped the culture and the attitude of the organization. So those words actually mattered, right? And people have overloaded definitions of words. So when you're speaking to a specific audience, the words that you use are important, right? And I'm very careful sometimes. Sometimes I say words. Sometimes, like, I use the word strong, okay, and I use that when associated to masculinity. But a lot of people associate that word with mental strength, which is really a gender neutral. Like, everyone should be mentally strong. I totally agree with that. So there's some, there's definitely some consequences for using the wrong words at the wrong time, right? Sometimes on this YouTube channel or podcast, whatever, I will say fuck, or I will say shit, okay? And some people will freak the hell out about that and say, oh, that's it. But words are words, okay? But there's a reason why, if I'm saying that I'm saying that. And some of you have said, oh, John, you shouldn't be using curse words. And you make some pretty valid points on that. But you know what? There's a reason why I'm doing it psychologically, and it's because I want to get your attention. I want to shake you up a little bit and make you think about what I'm saying. And this is something that, I wasn't totally sure about. Tony Robbins made a really good argument. He is just like dropping the F-bomb here and there and everywhere. And he talks about how it's really a pattern interrupt, and that he's trying to get you to think a little bit differently, to get your attention. It puts you in a little bit of a different state. You're paying a little more attention, and it is definitely, there's some psychology to that. But regardless, I don't want to get into the debate about that, because that's not what's important. But what is important, I think we can all recognize, is that the words and what we call ourselves are really important, right? For me, I have to deal with this all the time. I'm still working out. When people ask me, what do you do? What do you call yourself? I have to sort of figure that out. And a lot of times it depends on the context, depends on the situation, depends on who I'm talking to, on how I choose to describe myself. But the way that I do that can greatly influence the perception that people have, because people do attach meaning to words. So you got to think about these things. So again, bringing it back to the career, bringing it back to possibly software development, but it extends beyond software development, right? You can call yourself what you want. Choose carefully what you choose to call yourself. Use some of the psychology. Look at some of the studies. Yes, it makes sense. In this case, I think what Teller had posted there, it probably makes sense to call yourself a software developer. That probably makes sense. That's kind of where I've been defaulting anyway, is I've been using that term, software developer. My new book is called The Complete Software Developer Career Guide. You can sign up or check it out here. I don't know if it'll have been launched by the time you're watching this video, but whatever it is, you can click here, or it'll be the card or description below. You know the deal on YouTube. But I chose those words because I feel like those are the best words to use, but think about it. Think about the words that you use. And like I said, again, just the magic of calling yourself a software developer does not mean you're going to make 30K more. That's not going to happen. But the job that you apply for, right, that could make a difference, the title there. So there's not going to be magic. There's not going to be a silver bullet. You're not suddenly going to raise your value by a huge amount just by calling yourself something, right? When you call yourself something that you're not, also, that's called fraud, okay? But you do have a lot of leeway in what you do choose to call yourself, and you should think about that. It's an interesting study, interesting to think about these things, but I think the bigger lesson here is not that you make 30K more if you call yourself a software developer versus if you call yourself a web developer. The bigger lesson here is be careful, think about the words that you use, think about what you call yourself, and control your own image and perception to others. Otherwise, people will determine that for you. This idea of controlling your own image. Really, that course is about branding yourself, about building a personal brand and how to do that. And it's about it's about choosing, right? Because whether you do it or not, if you choose to take control of your own image, you get to decide how the world perceives you, right? Just like I'm putting out an image, I'm putting out stuff on YouTube, on my blog, I'm controlling that actively. And so I am building my brand based on that. If you choose not to do that, you're choosing to let the world define how they're going to call you and what your image is and your branding, because everyone will categorize you in some way. And again, it comes down to the words that you use. You get a chance to do this. And so what you call yourself, how you dress, how you look, what image you choose to present, if you consciously think about this, is really important, and it will determine how much money you make and how you are perceived and a lot of different things in life. So it is important. Appearances, images, perceptions is the key word here, are important. Perceptions rule the day. Click that subscribe button if you haven't already. I will talk to you next time. Take care.